It sounds almost too good to be true. You don't need to do cardio for losing body fat. In fact, not only that, you also have significant benefits to your heart health as well. Well, according to a study, yes, that's what their findings were. Indeed, you can make an argument that because you're actually lifting weights, not only do you look better because you've just got more muscle, you also burn more calories at rest because, well, again, you've got more muscle. But as we all know that as you get older, your bones get more brittle and weaker, and you have joint issues and your muscles start to get, well, weaker. And a lot of that stuff, as we know from other studies, can be fighted against by simply lifting weights. So all of that sounds like a really big win. And based on this study, you can just throw out the treadmill, right? Well, no, not quite yet. What we're going to do is look at this study plus a second study, and then we're going to draw some conclusions based on two different lenses. The first would be someone who regularly lifts at the gym and perhaps has done so for a couple of years, so they have a pretty good established routine, they know what they're doing. And the second would be a beginner who perhaps has been lifting for maybe just a couple of months or is just starting to get into it, so you can perhaps make some educated guesses to what you want to do. So let's first of all look at, well, the first study. Of course, I will leave a link to these studies in the video description. This study is called Aerobic Resistance or Combined Exercise Training in Cardiovascular Risk Profile in Overweight or Obese Adults. And the CardioRACE trial was published in lots of different places. Again, I'll leave a link to it in the video description, but in this particular instance, I'm going to be looking at the one that was published on the European Heart Journal. So there were over 400 people that were involved in the study, and they were aged between 35 and 70, both male as well as female, and they basically were sorted into several different groups. The first is a group that did no exercise, so basically they just sat on the couch and were eating potato chips, sorted. The second is resistance only, i.e. they lifted heavy stuff lots. The next group are just cardio, so they're the cardio bunnies, and then the final group are a mixture of both lifting weights as well as doing cardio. So the conclusions they found is basically the group that was doing resistance training only, in other words, they were lifting heavy stuff repeatedly, if they did so with sufficient resistance and with sufficient intensity, they did actually seem to have, yes, cardiovascular benefits, and they were also losing fat. In terms of the fat loss, it seemed to be roughly equivalent to the cardio-only group. Now, you can make somewhat of an argument that, at least according to this study anyway, the lifters were actually consuming more calories, 100 to 200 more on average. Now, you can make an argument, therefore, that they were actually burning more calories and therefore having superior fat loss because, again, the results were roughly equivalent, but the group that was lifting weights were consuming more calories, and just because of, well, the law of how stuff works, we know that if you're eating more calories, you need to do more to be able to burn those calories. So you can make an argument that if those calories were equal, roughly speaking, you would get better results from just lifting weights. But of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that, because you can make different arguments of, well, what foods were they eating, the thermogenics effects of certain foods, people's metabolism, and so on and so on. So again, you can't make a direct one-to-one comparison, but it's quite likely, at least in my personal opinion, that that would be the result. So that's it then. You definitely don't need to do cardio. Well, no, not so fast. As I said in the very first video on this channel, and also welcome back if you've watched one of the previous ones. This is like the third upload, I think. So, you know, awesome to everyone who has subscribed. Obviously, I'm going to continue to make videos, and hopefully you guys are going to continue to enjoy them. But as I said in my very first video, technically speaking, you can do absolutely no additional physical exercise, so you could theoretically just be a couch potato, eat better, and you would lose fat. That's just how things work, because again, if you need a certain number of calories to maintain your weight, if you drop the calories by, let's say, 5, 10, 15, whatever percent, your body weight is just going to start going down, and that's just how things work. However, The reality is, of course, that if you are incorporating resistance exercises, you do get a host of different benefits, especially, again, as you're getting older. Perhaps, if you're getting into your 30s and 40s and certainly your 50s, just incorporating physical exercise, you're going to look a lot better, you're going to feel a lot stronger, and you're just going to be a lot healthier. However, here are the other takeaways that we need to take into consideration. When they were adding cardio to the resistance training, so this was a combination of both resistance as well as cardio, they found that heart health improved significantly. Now, again, guys, you don't want to just look good by having lower body fat, but if your veins are about to pop because your heart rate, your blood pressure is so damn high, that's just no bueno. You don't want to just look good, but then be at the verge of you simply can't do a set of squats because your cardiovascular system just can't keep up. Additionally, when you did add in that additional cardio to the resistance exercises, your fat loss also increased significantly as well. So not only do you get those additional heart benefits, but you also lose more body fat. Now, again, that is obviously a really good thing, especially if you're trying to lean out and if you're even if you're a bodybuilder that's been working out for a while and you want to bulk, at least in my personal opinion, I still think adding some cardio into your daily routine is really beneficial. We'll get more into the specifics about that in just a moment. And also, while lifting weights is just good for you, for the reasons I've just mentioned, ultimately speaking, getting steps in, especially if you're working in a sedentary environment, let's say you're like me and pretty much most of your day is just sitting in front of a computer, typing away and looking at a screen, then obviously getting additional steps in is going to be beneficial. Now, clearly, if you're someone who works as, let's say, a construction worker or a postman or something like that, you're going to be probably getting lots of steps in during the day anyway, so you obviously want to tailor your cardio around that, and we'll get more into that in just a moment. But let's look now at a second study. Now, this study basically involves steps per day. Now, to reiterate, obviously, if you're a postman, you're going to be getting a good amount of steps in versus someone like me who basically just sits there all day on a computer. And what they found is over 72,000 participants were involved in the study. So they had a very good reference size and basically found that 2,200 steps makes a non-trivial difference to the chances of you keeling over. Now, I don't know about you guys, but keeling over is something I don't want to do, so I at least want to get those in. But if you hit between 9,000 and 10,000 steps a day, it will have a significant impact. It will almost totally negate sitting for long periods of time. Let's say you're working in an office job. So to give you the too long didn't watch or too long didn't read, whatever you want to say, of what I'm about to kind of say in a nutshell, yes, lifting weights is very good. I would highly recommend it. Even if you're not someone who absolutely loves the gym, just get a couple of days of lifting in because it's going to be awesome for you as you get older. In particular, you're just going to feel better about yourself. But also, if you're someone who perhaps just doesn't like cardio, do it anyway. You're going to look better for it, but more importantly, it's going to help to offset if you're living a fairly sedentary lifestyle outside of lifting weights, and ultimately speaking, you're going to just be able to perform better at the gym. Okay, so now I want to break this down even further. I'm going to split this into two different groups. Obviously, there is going to be perhaps somewhere in between for some people, so you can make an educated decision based on your personal experience and your life. But the first group is someone who has been lifting solidly for several years. So maybe you've been lifting 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and therefore you know what you're doing. You have a good understanding of bench press, deadlifts, you've got a routine down and so on. What are my personal recommendations? Well, the best approach, generally speaking, is to separate your lifting and your cardio into two different sessions. So for example, in the morning you would do a heavy lifting session, and then in the evening you could do, let's say, additional cardio, or you could reverse that. Now, I do realize that not everyone can go to the gym twice a day, so if that's the case, you have some options. The first is to do cardio on the same session, but after lifting weights. That way you get more energy for actually being able to lift heavy weights. And then afterwards, when your muscle glycogen stores are starting to go down, because again, you've lifted heavy weights, you can kind of just, do some steady state cardio or whatever it is for that specific session. You can also start to just do more cardio throughout the day. For example, you could go for a walk during your lunch. You could maybe go for a quick walk before breakfast. So that's some faster cardio, maybe 10, 15 minutes. You could get off a bus stop a couple of stops earlier, and so on and so on. Now, personally, and I want to stress this personally, I will do at least 30 minutes of cardio once a day, no matter what. So whether I'm lifting or whether it's a rest day, I will still do the cardio. I don't do anything super intense. I don't usually sprint or any of that stuff. I usually just do steady state cardio on the treadmill and kind of walk. And I'll also do some walking during the day anyway. I'm walking to and from the gym. The gym is quite close to my place. It's around a 15-ish minute walk, give or take. So I'm getting usually like at least 1 hour of cardio in, if you count the steps to the gym and also the steps on the treadmill. I sometimes will do even more than that, but again, that's kind of the minimum that I aim for. And that gets me, you know, a good number of steps throughout the day. Around 8,000 to 10,000, depending. Okay, what if you're just watching this video because you're curious about where to start? So again, maybe you watched my previous video, which is just how to begin at the gym, and you're like, okay, well, I would like to start working out. I want to start getting healthier. What steps, if you excuse the pun, do I need to take? Well, first of all, really and truly give yourself a pat on the back. It is awesome that you are looking at improving your health. I know it can seem quite daunting. It can seem quite difficult to know where to start, but seriously, anything is better than nothing. And I would advise, when you're like working up to this, don't look at this as like you need to be perfect from day one. Don't look at this as like I have to go running every single day. I need to do like a 3-mile run. It is not realistic at the start. Instead, my personal opinion, let's get the lifting out stuff out of the way. I would again advise you to check out maybe my first video on this topic, but to give you a very brief summary, if you're a total beginner, a 2-a-day workout is a good way to start. So that's an upper and lower body. So for example, on Monday you could lift with your upper body, so that would be back, shoulders and chest, and your lower body you could maybe do, let's say on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or whatever's good for you. You could also do it on the weekend, again depending on your schedule. Or if you want to be a little more ambitious, you could do push-pull legs, and again you can split that however you want. So for example, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Again, it's up to you. You could do 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row. It's totally up to you based on your specific schedule. As for the cardio side of things, I would advise to add some steps, at least in the sessions that you're at the gym, maybe with the exception of leg days. If you are absolutely exhausted after leg days, you might want to wait. Again, it's up to you, but if you're absolutely shattered, I know that personally sometimes it's just like legs. Hey, you know what? Let's do my cardio later because I'm done. So yeah, if you want to do your cardio on a separate time, that's also perfect. Also, if you are just starting out, your body is just going to be making huge progress because of newbie gains anyway. You don't need to be perfect, as I said previously in another video, as a beginner. So as a beginner, you can just start by getting again off the bus a couple of stops earlier. You can maybe park further away from the shop if you're driving, that type of thing. So just make small tweaks. Another thing you can do is a little ways to actually hack your day to just force yourself to do more steps. So let's say you're going out to the shop and you need to take the trash out. Don't take the trash out on the same trip. Force yourself to do it later. Little things like that can force you basically to get a couple of extra 100 steps here, a couple of extra 100 steps there, and before you know it, you've added like 1,000, 2,000 extra steps a day, and that does start to multiply over the week. Combine that with, again, lifting at the gym, and maybe adding in, let's say 15, 20 minutes, or what you feel comfortable with at the gym in terms of a cardio session afterwards. You're going to start to really notice those performance improvements. Now, this is mostly aimed at someone who has been lifting for quite a while. Believe me, I know that sometimes you just don't want to do the cardio. Sometimes you just want to lift. It feels good. It feels awesome to lift a heavy weight, and it can be a little boring to go on a treadmill. I don't need to tell you guys that there are some hacks you can use. For example, listening to podcasts, YouTube videos, audio books, what have you, with a good pair of headphones. That can work really well. But also, if it's any motivation at all, just think of it this way. When you are lifting heavy weights, especially if it's something like a deadlift or a heavy squat, The worst thing is to just feel totally gassed halfway through the set and you're like, you know, I know my legs physically can lift more, but I'm shot. My cardio system is just done. And again, if you look really big and strong, but you're walking up a flight of stairs and you're just like, it doesn't look good, dude. I'm just saying. So, lifting is not just about looking good in the mirror. Ultimately, you want to feel good, you want to feel strong, and as you're getting to like my kind of age, I've hit 40, just looking at some of my friends, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful or a harsh way, but many of them now are starting to realize how important it is to start taking their health quite seriously. You know, they realize that their blood pressure is going up, and some of that obviously is just daily stress anyway. They realize that their health is starting to go down. You know, they're you know what, they're just not doing perhaps as well as they should. So those are things that are definitely going to be beneficial. And yeah, so anyway, hopefully you have found this video somewhat informative. If you have, then obviously subscribe for more stuff. I will continue to make videos on the channel. Hopefully I'm going to be able to pump them out a little more regularly. It's just been a little bit crazy the last few weeks, unfortunately, just how things go sometimes with life. But thanks to everyone who has, of course, subscribed already and has been enjoying the content. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Have an amazing day. Bye for now.